Hello, everyone, and welcome to the third ever episode of the Cougar Cast, the official podcast of Cougar Beatrice, the band. Today we are joined by special guests Orion Faruque and Elie Bashkow of Orion and the Melted Crayons. On July 2nd, the Crayons will be releasing their first single off their upcoming debut album. The track is entitled E9, and we will be playing a snippet of it before the interview begins. We hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening.
Slow down, hold me, tease me, breathe me in. Maybe we could freeze the time and still hold in place. Is this all that it will take for all?
Dude, I'm definitely a breakfast guy. Any meal that I can eat, that's a me thing. I'm that guy. Except I forget about them.
You?
I would say very much a food guy.
Yeah.
So if there's food in the morning, I'm like for it. But I will say that often I don't have an appetite right when I wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think I don't really believe in the distinction between breakfast and any other meal. I think that they should all be equal.
Okay.
Meal equality is what I believe in.
I feel like that's something that's lacking
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. Well, everybody's like, this is breakfast and this is not breakfast. To me,
As far as the type of
everything
food.
is breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just, when are you
just the
eating?
first meal. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just time-wise.
And time-wise, I do definitely eat less in the earlier parts of the. I'd say like I
Yeah.
will eat like maybe like sometimes as many as 4 different times between like 3 p.m. and whenever I go to bed around 2 or 3.
It's
There
called
you
a
go.
super bang.
And
It's a super bang?
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
This just the
Yeah.
multi
Well, when you eat that, it's like
a bang sort of stands for like an eating
singular-
occurrence.
Yeah, a
okay.
singular instance of eating.
If you eat at one, say you go to a spot, get a sandwich, and then you go to another spot and get a curry, and you do that consecutively, right? Just like one to the
Oh,
other.
yeah.
That's it's a bang bang.
Gotcha.
And so what we just discovered at Guajiros the other day, which little shout out, that's one of my favorite spots, new spots in Charlottesville, is if you take a break in between 2 halves of a burrito, which is not something I'm normally do. That's like a bang, instead of like a bang bang
Okay.
situation. It's really nice. Normally I just eat the whole thing and then I'm
I
sitting
was about to
there.
say,
Yeah.
yeah.
A little break. They have AstroTurf, and you sit on this like little balcony thing. So it's really
This
nice.
place, yeah. It's on West Main.
It's next to.
You need to check it out. Do they have
Continental
activities?
Uh,
AstroTurf?
No, most of the activities I've done there are eating. I enjoy
Looking
it.
at a dog. This one
Yeah,
time.
there was a beautiful dog. Many beautiful dogs. Yeah, it's right on West Main there, though.
You eating today?
Yeah, I made some scrambled eggs this morning.
Did you?
Because that was the only thing in the house. I realized I was like eating out for every single meal because it's delicious, and my bank account was starting to be like, "Fuck, dude,
Yeah.
you got it." Am I allowed to swear?
You can
You
let it
just
rip.
did.
Okay, cool. So it's
Really
like,
bad.
dude, you're. As soon as I said that, I was like, "Oh,
You know what? We've only ever censored like one word.
Oh, that was the
And the-
incident.
Yeah.
The incident.
The big incident with
Yeah.
Sean Elie from Bofa was that, yeah, I think Sam might have said the word once too. I'll see if you guys stumble upon it just by your
Word?
own
Okay,
devices.
good to know.
And,
I try to avoid any word that's known as the word.
okay.
But
so you don't say bird."
I do say, well, yeah. Sometimes I say birds. I usually use it plurally. I don't normally say the singular flapping thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is the word.
It is the word.
Well, that's good to go, but yeah.
All right, bird
Oh.
is allowed
Yeah. For now.
for now.
No one's come with any complaints yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we've covered breakfast.
Hell yeah.
Good place to start.
Yeah. Actually, That's good enough for me. If y'all are
Yeah.
good with that.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll just
Well,
wrap it.
But
Tristan?
I mean,
Wrap?
speaking of raps, we could move on to lunch.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, for
have a
sure.
little bang bang action.
Have a little bang
Yeah.
bang, you know?
Yeah.
Something that has yet to be determined is the length of time between meals that makes it a bang bang. I believe it has to be
Well,
like
if it's
directly.
a burrito, so if it's not
Yeah.
a burrito,
No.
half to half
Yeah.
length.
No. Like a bang bang. Say you go to Bang Tapas, and then you immediately leave that and go to Rev Soup. Like you walk out and you go into the next place. That is a proper bang bang.
I think the amount of time is like maybe
None.
like an hour and a half.
No, none.
An hour. No, because if you if you leave a place and you kind of
And your
stroll
journey
around a
just
little
immediately
bit.
starts to the next.
Well,
next
your
year.
journey has to start. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
it's when the start of the journey begins. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't do like a separation activity like go to the library or swim.
I'm with you.
Unless it's a swim up bar that has nachos, which would be
In
weird.
my dreams, maybe.
A swim up bar.
Dude, have you ever been to a swim up bar?
No.
No.
I was so I went to college in Minnesota. And we got free lodging at the Wisconsin Dells for spring break one year. And so I think it was actually after I graduated, but I still take a spring break every year. I think it's a good part of society. And so we went there, and it's like one of the biggest water parks in the country apparently. And they had like a swim up bar. You just like swim up to a bar. You're like in a water park, and they don't really sell food. They mostly sell beverages. Seems really nice until you like realize that no one goes anywhere to like use the bathroom or anything. So
Yeah.
I got sussed out and was like, I'm out. I'm gonna buy one margarita, then I'm going somewhere else.
Man, just one.
Well, because they give you this big glass.
Do they serve water?
No, you
Like-
just drink the pool water. Yeah, no, they give you this big glass, and then if you can take it anywhere around the resort thing, and you can. That's like the only way you can have an open container. So we just got the glasses and went back to our apartment and made. They provided us a blender, or not apartment, room, whatever. They provided us a blender, so we just made our own margaritas. It didn't pay $25 per margarita like they were selling them for. So, little hack.
This guy. It's just a fountain of knowledge.
Just a genius. I learned so much. I'm never paying
So-
for a margarita again.
Yeah.
No.
So on that vein, how long would you say you've been under Orion's wing for now? If we could go to the origins of the Orion-Elie connection, which must go pretty deep, as
Apparently.
people would imagine.
We didn't know that, how deep it went.
What do you mean?
Were y'all separated at birth, perhaps?
Yeah,
Okay.
by about 8 years, but
Separate. Well, okay, so it's very likely that there was a point when I was around 8 to 10 years old that I was at a camp that Orion was
Really?
a counselor at. Yeah, we put this together much later on called
Man.
Living Earth Camp.
yeah.
And
I actually asked him if he was the kid who punched me in the throat, because
I guess some kid punched him in the throat, but
it
that wasn't
did,
me.
It happened.
I
It was
vaguely
not me.
remember, but yeah. So we were like we were there, you know,
the same
but
time.
at the same time. But I was 8, and then yeah, I at the end of high school, I graduated in 2018, I think. I did this recording session with some friends, and there was this dude sitting in the back. And I was like, hi, you know. And then I just started seeing him at every restaurant I went to. He was at Bodo's, like every time I went to Bodo's, like all over the place. And so eventually, like we just like it reached a point where we were like, okay, we've now like run into each other
probably talk.
so many times that we should like. And at music and arts, like music stores and restaurants, I was like, okay, this dude is hanging out at the same music stores and the same restaurants as I am.
Meant to be.
It bodes well.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, you want to join
So
my
you guys
band?
didn't talk at the recording session. That
I think I said hi,
okay.
but he was standing in the other room, and this was like I had just moved. I was like probably 3 months into moving back to Charlottesville, and so I was like sitting there, just observing the engineer and like watching how he worked and trying to learn myself. And I think Elie was standing in the live room for most of it. So, we were kind of separated. And I was just getting to know people. But yeah, I asked him to like start playing in my band and do some recording with me. And he sent a talent scout to a show, which was really funny.
That's not true. My talent scout, a friend of mine, sent herself to the show and did the scouting.
And showed up, and the first thing she said was, "I'm here to see how good the band is, to see if Elie Bashkow should play in it." I was like, all right, I like that he takes himself seriously, man. It's good. It's good.
I was like, you guys go check out the show, maybe see, like, it was like.
So what was this person's like?
Friend,
okay,
a friend of mine,
a friend of a friend.
Yeah,
but but I was in Cuba at the time, because I went there.
Seattle, Cuba. Yeah.
No, Seattle was later.
Either or. Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty similar places.
Yeah.
Seattle,
Coffee.
Cuba. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
coffee. There's cars in both of them.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, like the big thing about playing with Elie and just like collaborating and making music with him, I don't even really see it as like that kind of relationship. I just see it as like I'm very sensitive to the people around me who bring something out of me musically and add something to my music. And I feel like I look for sensitive people, like sensitive musicians that can respond, like, because a lot of our shows, like if you've seen an Orion and the Melted Crayons show, there's a lot of improv that occurs, and you need people who listen and are sensitive to do that.
Exactly what you mean. You found the right guy. I'd say.
So like and so like having someone that you can have a conversation with verbally and then immediately switch into having a conversation with musically is really, really important. And so some of the first stuff we did was like, we had this like really interesting exercise where it was just like this guitar motif where we would just like sit together and play it and then try to like basically complete thoughts. Like we had a launch to a solo that you would like trade off each time. Someone would play the launch and then they'd play one chord progression of a lead, and the other person would play the launch and they'd play one chord progression, and then you'd switch back and forth and do like up to 5 and then back down to 1. It's kind of like running suicides in basketball, but music.
Sounds like a great way to get to know someone at least.
Yeah.
We used to sit in this music store. We'd go to Specialty Guitars Plus. Shout out, go get your guitars there. And we'd go and we would I remember sitting in the corner. We'd take 2 guitars that we really wanted to play, and we would try to describe the weather of the day. Yeah, could not afford. We would try to describe the weather musically, which is of course a really interesting exercise and a good way to like get to know how someone is gonna like translate their internal state into music.
Yeah.
So
I forgot about that.
Yeah, we used to just sit there, and it was, I remember one time it was like kind of gray, and we were like trying to get like the feeling of the day through, which is like a really cool kind of thing to do. So
yeah, absolutely. So when you guys first interacted and started playing together, was this actually as Orion and the Melted Crayons proper? Or?
I think so. So to speak into it, like a little bit of the history of the band is when I was moving from North Carolina, like Asheville area, to Charlottesville, I was in a few other projects, but was a little bit frustrated just because I felt like I was putting a lot into them, and then people would like go their own way and things would sort of dissolve as things do. And so I decided I needed to do something with my songs because I believed in them. I was like, I need to figure out a name to put them out under. So I recorded a 12-song like super acoustic thing at a coffee shop. It was just like our show. I just recorded it and put it out as like the Orion and the Melted Crayons demos. And so I started playing as that, which was kind of strange because sometimes it would be just me and it was called Orion and the Melted Crayons because I wanted people to know where to find the music online. But yeah, for me, I kind of see it as like the crayons are the songs, but it's definitely become the crayons are the people. So I think we were promoting it as that. And at this point, we try to mostly promote shows as Orion and the Melted Crayons if we're playing with our band, like, you know, a full band thing. And if we're not playing as that, we just either call it one of our solo names or, you know, Orion and Elie or O and the Ryans if I'm playing with any of the Ryans that are in the band.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So yeah, just kind of curious if those 12 songs that you're mentioned had you been sitting on them for like a long time? Like, were these all songs that you had written?
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna look on Bandcamp because I don't actually know what's in there. I just realized they were out recently.
I've never heard of this particular record. Yeah, no. I think one of the things that's like happened is the material, like there was when I first met Orion, he had sort of like a block of original material, like a canon sort of like things he'd written that we would play, and we played that for like quite a while, like developing them, and because he's like, I feel like a really great producer. So, I mean, both of us work like in studios recording and then also do the live stuff. And I remember like a lot of what I was like learning was basically he was like producing the performances in the sense of like he had a vision in his head and then it was sort of like the conversation of like, okay, how do you translate this? And for a long time, it was just him playing acoustic guitar and me playing violin, which is creates like a very sort of specific sound. And we played like that for like a year. I was on a gap year, and I was always like trying to figure out what this vision was. And then now, you know, he mentioned like there's like we try to play Orion and the Melted Crayons as like a full band because we got drummer, the bass player. I play violin as well, but also playing more electric guitar, mandolin, and these songs have like I now get to like see them in their full, like in the way that he was hearing them and trying to like produce his like the best version given the like just the violin and the guitar. Now I get to hear it with the full thing. He's just made a record with a bunch of these songs that like is that sound.
Okay, so these have been around.
They've been around.
Some
of them, but also a bunch of new songs.
Yeah. Actually, I pulled up the Orion and the Melted Crayons. It's called the Space Lab demos because it was on West Main there. And you were asking how old the songs were at the time. The oldest song at that time was a song I wrote called "Going Home," that I wrote about moving back from Minneapolis to North Carolina when I had like. It was just, I got home, and I think it was like New Year's Day, and I was like in my living room with my mom, and I don't know, she seemed maybe not to be having the best day, so I like started playing a funky bluegrass song about like how Prince ate wild rice in Minnesota, and that was like the genesis of this song. But some of the other stuff that was on there, actually. Track 7 off that is called Leela's Lullaby. It was a song I wrote for my niece because she was just born at that point, and that's actually on this new record that I've just made. And then there's a song called Burning Down that's on another recording that I put out later in that year. Yeah, so it looks like this. I did this show with a good friend of mine, Colby Pegg Joplin, and he was playing guitar.
Joplin.
Yeah. He's a good dude.
Good family name.
Yeah, he was playing guitar and violin on some stuff. So yeah, it was really interesting because when I was in North Carolina, I was doing a lot of like smaller shows. As the Melted Crayons, I was playing bigger stuff with my band at the time. It was called Slumber Drones, and I was playing in some other projects, but like performing my material, I was playing a lot of smaller shows where I was trying to make the sound as big as possible. So I'd like sit there and play guitar and play kick drum with my foot and like hi-hat with my other foot and just try to make the sound as big as possible. So that's the other thing I was looking for with people when I moved to Charlottesville, was people who could play multiple instruments. So I think I added Elie, and then our good friend Lewis Smith was playing with us a good deal at that point. So we were doing like this trio thing, and then I think our friend
This is Lewis Smith of Kendall Street Company.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
For those who were listening, yeah.
They actually just dropped a record last Friday.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Check it out. It's really good.
I shall.
But yeah, he was with us, and then a couple other friends would like kind of rotate in and out. But then, yeah, I just started using shows and recording opportunities as a way to figure out who had what I was looking for to be in the band. And that's kind of just where I'm at this point.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's obviously worked out, and you've kind of. It seems like you've kind of settled on, at least the live instrumentation that really gets the songs.
I really like the version of the band that I like to play with is usually like 7 people, which is not tenable for a lot of touring, but it is tenable for, like, we did a show at the Southern right before the start of COVID. And that,
That's right, yeah.
you know, we had those 7 people. Yeah, it was a really good time, and it had the sound that I was looking for.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
I remember being there.
Yeah.
So talking about your canon and your repertoire of originals, that's pretty extensive at this point. When did you start writing, and had you been playing for a long time at that point? And if you could just give some people some insight into your instrumental and songwriting history.
Yeah. So I come from a very musical family. I oftentimes say I'm the worst musician in my family. Like, I learned how to practice because I had to. Everybody else was just like sat down and did stuff, and I was like, but yeah, I started writing instrumental piano music like in the single digits probably. My mom's a classical piano player, so I would I remember very vividly laying on the stairs in my house and like listening to her play Vivaldi or Tchaikovsky, or, you know, like things like that. And so I would go over there and I was like working on I Can See Clearly Now by Johnny Nash, like the kind of like soul song. I was like working on that, but then one day I was like, oh, I can just kind of play my own thing here. And so from that, I kind of really started expressing myself. And anytime I was feeling something, I would sit down at the piano and just try to do something. And then I started kind of writing lyrical songs when I started feeling like I had something to say, which was in middle school. I wrote one of the most important songs for me at that time. Like, I was like 13 or 14. And in high school, I was oftentimes acting as the songwriter in bands because I was playing drums and I wanted us to have something interesting to play. And maybe it came with like the production, but I was thinking about like how the whole thing worked together. I was like, people had really cool ideas, and it helped them develop them into songs and like write songs for them. And then I went to college and, you know, didn't feel like I had anything to musically say, or not anything, but didn't feel like I had that much to say musically, or sorry, lyrically. I had a lot to say musically. So I was writing a lot of instrumental music. And then at the end of college, or actually in college, I was taking some cool songwriting courses and really fell in love with lyrics and like poetry and that kind of stuff. And after college in Minnesota, I moved to North Carolina with the intention of finding my artistic voice. And so a lot of the stuff that I wrote, or that we perform now, or used to perform, I guess, at that time, was written on top of a mountain in North Carolina. Wow. During an intense period of soul searching, of just like figuring out who I was as an artist. You know, I play some stuff that's way older than that, and some stuff that's way newer than that. But yeah, I pretty much, I just write as an observation of the world around me, oftentimes, and like as a conversation with the world and people. So COVID made it a little bit weird for songwriting. I wrote some cool stuff, but a lot of the themes, the stuff I wrote were like, I want to go do something.
Of course, naturally. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. So I think it's obvious just listening and seeing you guys play that it's, it's not the first time you guys are playing these instruments before. You guys have been playing for a long time, and it's no surprise that you come from a musical family and started very young. And you're next. Where did it all start? How did we get here?
So it's interesting because my understanding of what happened changed really recently. So I thought when I was 6, my mom one day was like, "I'm gonna sign you up for fiddle lessons."
That happened to me too.
She said fiddle lessons. She didn't say violin lessons.
It was fiddle lessons. It was
Let's go.
it's on the corner of Rugby and Gordon. There's this place, I think Rugby and Gordon. I suck at road names. It was called the Prism. Now I think it's like a church or something. Anyways, I it's funny because I now live right next to it, but that was the first place I ever played an instrument that
That is Rugby and Gordon.
Yeah, so it was, and I got
And you were
fiddle
6?
lessons. I was 6 with this local amazing bluegrass player named Alex Caton. And interestingly, in the last couple weeks, I dug up some videos of myself when I was like 1 or 2 or whatever that my parents had taken. And in them, I was always like making sound, and like I had a toy guitar, and I was always trying to play this guitar. So I was like, I'd sort of thought that it had started there, but watching these videos, I was like, wait a minute. I was like really excited about music from even younger. I mean, I wasn't, gifted. I was banging on a,
That's the gift.
guitar, literally just hitting it or whatever. But yeah, so I never like, so let's see, I started when I was 6, and I kind of played bluegrass for a while, and then I went, and in middle school I played classical all the way up.
All just violin.
Just violin at this point. And in 8th grade, I got like a little solo, like a classical solo. Like I was first chair, so I got to like stand up and play something by myself. I think that was sort of a formative moment because like I kind of think that what you're like when you're young, like there's a certain amount of natural gift, and then there's a certain amount of like someone's like, oh, like wow, that sounds good, and so
course,
you're like, oh, like hell yeah, this is something I like, and it's huge.
Yeah.
And I remember then the summer after 8th grade, I like took my violin into the living room, and I started playing all the like songs that I was listening to, which were mostly T.I. at the time.
Wow.
And I would just play along with them.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay. Just like I would just play violin and like try to figure out how do you like play non-classical, because I was like,
I would do that with I was like learning rudimental snare drum at the time, like when I was like around that age. I was like studying snare drum. Yeah, I would put on like the thing that was big when I was at that age was like pop punk and like all sorts of stuff, and like rock, and I would just put it on and just play rudimental snare drum to it. It doesn't work, but it works.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, it didn't sound. The point wasn't to sound good. It was to like explore. It was that moment of like, wait, I can just sort of, I can self guide what I play. And then like throughout high school, I just kind of like I was sort of starting to just play more instruments. I started playing mandolin, and then I started playing guitar, and then I started playing bass. And then after high school, I took a gap year, and at this point, I was still like, I kind of considered music like a hobby to some extent, well, not really. I was a kid. I wasn't thinking about like, oh, is this something I want to do, and then I took this gap year and just like started playing with Orion, and like it basically turned into this full, like music expanded to like fill a lot more of like me,
Obsession
and
addiction.
Yeah, and I started writing music, and just sort of I really became, I'd say like that was when I became like a sort of full musician. And then more recently, I've taken the step mostly over COVID where I'd always been playing live music and stuff, and I sort of play less violin, more guitar these days. But I also started transitioning and doing more like engineering, mixing, producing, and that's been a whole new thing. And now that's sort of like where I'd say even like maybe the majority of my energy goes is like either like songwriting or like mixing and producing. And I don't know whether that's like a long path or a like fate. I don't know.
I think from an outside observer, I think it's you were doing that. We do this like cyclically.
Yeah.
You get, and I'm sure you understand as a player, like you get obsessed with like I need to learn how to do this specific thing, or like this is how I songwrite, and you do it for a length of time, and then it becomes normalized.
Then it becomes a part of you.
Yeah, and you don't have to think about it, and you just do it.
Yeah,
which is great.
Yeah,
I just found this the first song we wrote together.
I
was just thinking about this.
That's
we were
right.
sitting in Penn Park on July 18th of 2018. We wrote a song about a tree.
Yep.
The
Can
chorus
people
is
find this anywhere?
no. We don't even know what it sounds like, to be quite honest. There's like a really long G riff. I remember.
Yeah, this was the first time
Always
we
feel
ever
free
hung
to
out.
lean on me. Whenever you need me, I'll be here by the stream. That was the chorus. It seems to
Sounds
be.
good to me.
It was the idea of a tree growing up. A tree by the stream growing up with a kid, and the kid was growing up next to the tree.
There's a couple songs
Like
that have that,
like the Giving Tree, Shel Silverstein.
Yeah, there's what is it? Tall Pines. You ever play that in bluegrass? Maybe not. But
Yeah, is that like a traditional?
it's older than I am. I don't know.
Heck yeah, man.
Hey, thanks, bud. Look at that.
Good
Tristan, my dude.
good service.
Did you guys use the top off?
I could.
I'm good for now, but thank you.
We'll top off.
I'm plowing through mine. I'm staying
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
staying hydrated.
Shoot. The other
I
day,
want to dehydrate.
I've not been hydrating enough. That always happens to me. Except the other day when we went to Guajiros, this place.
Can I tell them what you did the night before? Your very first debut.
Oh yeah,
He did a debut keg stand the night before. So.
Whoa. Yeah. And I was like, I drank so much water there because they were just coming by and it was like cold water and it was a hot day and they just kept like refilling my glass.
Hey, good for
And
you. Yeah.
I swear to God, I've never been that hydrated. It was amazing.
Yeah,
I peed so much.
it felt really good too.
Yeah.
Then we
It's
went,
an eventful 24-hour period.
yeah, and then we went and played Duck Hunter.
Yeah.
Oh, that's going back a ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And do you know Asher McLaughlin, the musician?
I remember playing with him one time actually at Coops,
Yeah.
and I don't know. He might not. I mean, it
It's
was
kind
just
of like
a one-off
he's very
thing, but-
lion-hearted.
I will say the first thing that John Gordon
Oh,
ever
that's
said
right,
to me,
yeah.
it was I was my like second day of first year
calling
year
everybody.
of
Yeah.
UVA, and it was like a Tuesday, and that was the day that Bluegrass was, and I went just to see because so John and I met through Bluegrass, and I was wearing the Asher McLaughlin shirt.
Yeah, dude.
And I was like, damn, this kid's good. Like, and I was like watching, and then he finished up and he's like, you know Asher? And I was like, yeah.
Dude,
I think I played with him that summer. That was the only time I ever
Yeah.
met the dude, but we just had a rip roaring good time on the Coop stage, and never saw him at. He had I believe a New Zealander friend who came in.
Anthony
Turan.
Oh my God.
You should listen to his new song. It's called "Whoa, I'm in a Foreign Place." It's a vibe for sure. It's good. It's about him.
I will absolutely do that.
Yeah, he's been producing and releasing a bunch of music over COVID. It's a good dude.
Word. Sorry. So you were saying?
I don't
I
know.
don't remember what.
Oh, I was gonna say
Duck Hunter.
Duck hunter. But I was getting
Whoa.
tangential. I was getting
Hell yeah.
tangential. I was
Hell
gonna
yeah.
like I was talking. I
What
was
console
thinking
was that for?
Duck Hunter. Like
Okay,
it's for the Duck Hunter.
It's like an arcade.
no, you're thinking about the N64 Duck Hunter.
Duck Hunt.
But
I think
yeah,
it's-
Duck
okay,
Hunt.
okay.
Yeah. No, this is like you have like a thing that sits in your house.
He has an arcade in his basement.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So it's got the orange and
Well,
the
he
green
said it
gun,
was-
yeah.
and
Whoa. Okay.
and you
I'm with
you
you.
play it and you like shoot the
You pump it.
you
Yeah.
pump it and you're like 2 players. Pew.
I think he realized over COVID that you can buy one of those off Amazon for a fairly decent price.
What-
like
what-
below
what's it-
$200.
And it's like a big arcade game that you'd see at like a
Yeah,
a
it's
restaurant?
just well, it's not a big one. It's
Okay,
like a
okay.
medium-sized one.
It's a little bit smaller than
Yeah.
the like.
the home version.
Yeah, it's the home edition, and it doesn't take any quarters, so
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
I was thinking. Sorry, I was thinking about the question you asked earlier about like, how the the people play together in the band.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back to that time where we had you come play with us at an acoustic show at
Dirty Nellies.
Dirty Nellies.
They have Duck
yeah.
Hunter at Dirty Nellies.
They do have Duck
Okay,
Hunter.
okay.
That maybe that's why I was thinking of it.
Oh,
in
man.
place. But
Full
yeah, no,
circle.
I used to live like across the street from Dirty Nellies, and so sometimes on Tuesday we would have rehearsal on Tuesday and then go chill and just make some acoustic music. But that thing that we did with you, like asking you to come and basically have a conversation, basically like what like we're doing right now, we asked you to just bring your instrument and come do that. That's something I like to do with people.
Definitely. That seems to be the sort of space that y'all have fit into very well. And given your guys' backgrounds, you seem very well suited for it.
I remember watching you do the thing. I don't know. Is there a term for that?
You mean the like
Oh,
Django?
like a gypsy jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, hell yeah, man. I remember watching you doing that and being like, and then I went home and I was like, okay, I can play drums. I can do this. So I was like,
That's that's one of those things that's good for one time only per song, you know.
Yeah.
And then
Or
You don't
4
wanna-
times in a row.
Yeah.
And that's the one time.
If you want people to get annoyed,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
all
I'm
the
just gonna
strumming,
blast
but-
them.
Check it out.
But if you pull it out at the right moment,
Yo Stefan, that's the first.
Oh,
guy.
yeah,
this
yeah,
is Stefan. Yeah, I feel like it's like really good. Like it'll be like something that like I've noticed is they'll play it when someone else's solo is really reaching a sort of like a climax, and it adds like it makes the solo feel even bigger. Like it increases the.
It's like when the drummer goes right
Exactly.
at the top of your solo.
That's like something that's really I think about a lot, just musically. Is like, you know, how much like the band, like if you have someone taking a solo, you think of it like, oh, the solo, like basically it's how well that person plays is what determines how it's perceived. But no, the whole band makes the soloist look good. I remember I read Victor Wooten's book, The Music Lesson, which is
Your favorite book.
It is in some ways so weird and silly, but the ideas are like really solid. And that was one of the big things he was talking about is like it's actually like you can like, if you're really listening and paying attention and playing intentionally, you can make like your job in fact is to make the right person sound or like the effect of the right person's playing resonate the right way with the audience, which is I think something that like carries over really well into like production and mixing or whatever. Like you're seeing the thing as a whole and you're like, okay, this needs to stand forward right now and this is how I'm going to do it. And like in gypsy jazz, it's like this solo is reaching its fastest, loudest point. I'm going to like give some hits and everyone's going to perceive it as a solo is getting even more intense.
And it's,
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
That's being a good musical friend.
Yeah.
And in my lifetime, I think one of the most inspiring things musically was I've seen Tommy Emmanuel a couple times live, but it's a whole different context from like, you know, and playing at some theater somewhere versus playing at an open mic styled workshop type of event where everyone gets to come up and play with him. One after another. He has they've never practiced, nothing. And there's people that have played for decades. There are people that have played for months. And all of them sound brilliant.
Yeah.
Because of him.
Yeah.
And it's so difficult trying to put yourself in that position where it's like, man, the guy he's playing with is playing all out of time and he's out of tune. Like I would just give up. Like, what's even the point?
Yeah.
There's nothing to salvage there.
Contextualize it.
But there's always something. It just makes you feel like, all right, if you can make that sound good, it's an even stronger case for like there's something within everything sonically that you can make come out of the guitar. Like you can make it happen.
I think it's also like and people observing that like that because it's the feeling of, especially if you know they haven't played together before, it appears as though the person making the other person sound good is in on the secret, and they're like they have like this. It's kind of like an inside joke that everybody's enjoying together, and that's I feel like effective musicians do that.
And you can tell, you
Yeah,
can tell,
yeah.
you can obviously tell who's been playing, the guy who's been playing nationally and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prodigy since they were 5, and the guy who's a hobbyist who's like a
Right.
software engineer who does
Yeah,
this
yeah.
in his free time.
Yeah.
But it's like there's this complete removal of any ego or anything
Yes.
because
Mhm.
that comes from the understanding of just like when you've been performing since you were 5 and you had to, at that age, you might have had to do it so you could eat.
Mhm.
Or your
Like
family
John
could, but-
Gordon.
Not quite, but like you know that once you count to 4 and that song starts, it's like you got to give the people something. It doesn't matter how, at that point everybody's the same level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like no one watching. You got to play for the for the audience. You know, the audience
Yeah.
doesn't care if you're better than the other guy.
You
and
gotta
the
play
other
for the
guy's playing
song.
out of time.
Yeah.
And like they're hearing one song.
Yeah.
You know.
I can't remember who said this, but I remember reading this. Maybe it was in school or something, but this guy was, maybe it was in the music lesson actually, but the guy was talking about he would take these certain gigs and he like just wasn't into them. You know, it's like playing at that vineyard that you know of, that you go there and you feel drained after you play a show at it because like just all your energy goes out. But like respecting the song enough that while you're doing that, not to like take a break while someone's taking a solo and drink your beer, but like to stay engaged while that's happening and take a break after.
Oh,
Isn't that,
yeah. It
Like,
was somebody.
he got
Someone
yelled
said.
at by
Definitely
someone.
guilty of that personally.
Yeah.
But
Well,
can't
yeah,
remember who
yeah.
it was,
I mean,
no.
if you need a quick second to do it, but if it's like
It
you
was-
tune out.
I think it was Billy Strings
Yeah.
talking about playing with Sam Bush.
Yeah. Sam
And
Bush
he
blasted
said,
Billy
and he
Strings,
said that he was like not super psyched about the gig. I can't remember, so don't
which
quote
is
me
a
on it. but
weird.
whatever it
thing.
was, like he wasn't playing and he zoned out and took a drink of his beer, and Sam Bush was like, man, like,
That's disrespectful.
what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
you know, that's not respectful of the music. I think it's like what you're saying is like when that like when the song starts, you know, it's like you have to sort of show up for it. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to, you can choose not to. And
But you have
people
to
won't
choose that before you show up.
people won't resonate with the music. Like
Yeah,
you can tell. I think one of my favorite things about watching you play is that like you are so in it. Like it's very clear that like you are not thinking about like all this sort of external, like you are paying attention to what you're doing,
try to.
and you're like you like are existing within the songs, which I think is like comes across, you know, that's felt.
It's one of the better compliments I've received recently. Yeah.
And I will say,
makes a lot
like,
of sense.
As like when I started producing, very quickly it became clear to me that I needed to start paying attention to drums way more. And at this point, I've really like I probably listen to drums like actively, you know, in a way that I've never done before, because I realized as soon as I started like producing songs and making songs and mixing songs, I was like, okay, what's making it feel this way is actually the drums.
Yeah.
And the drums are actually making you think that it's the other things.
Wow.
I mean,
a lot of the time.
I've had some very interesting experiences with different quality drummers. Like the Tommy Emmanuel thing you're talking about. Tommy Emmanuel, I don't know if he plays drums, but probably would.
Oh yeah, that's what he started. on, I
Yeah,
believe.
he would probably make a great drummer because of his sensitivity in that manner. Like, I've had multiple instances where I'm playing with a great drummer who does that, but I've also had other things where, you know, I'm playing with someone who is uncomfortable for some reason. Maybe the situation's there, or they feel like they sound weird in the room, and because of that, they're not playing in a sensitive manner as other people would, and it creates this very weird effect in in a song. Like, I once was playing with someone and I felt like I was falling down a flight of stairs the entire song for some reason, or I actually went and watched a show at Miller's, and I could tell the drummer thought he was too loud in the room, and he was uncomfortable, and I had to leave the show because I was so uncomfortable. I was like, I cannot, like, it just feels so weird to me, and I just had to leave. And so, I don't know, it's really interesting to think about, like, the function of musicality.
Yeah. So, just while we're on the topic of drums, so you mentioned starting out on piano and kind of doing your own instrumental stuff for a number of years there, but getting into jazz drums, was that your first foray into drumming at all, or had you just kind of played? Became
So
phase?
Interestingly enough, at the age of 6, I was also signed up for violin lessons for me. So this lady gave my sister a violin, and because at the time, oftentimes what your older sibling does, you do too. Like, I also got violin lessons. So I was like studying violin, doing Suzuki method. And I remember this one lesson when I was like 7, and I was 7 or 8 or something like that. And I was in the music store, was what it was called. It's at the corner of 33 and 29 up in Standardsville, Ruckersville or something. I remember vividly there was a blue drum set in the corner of the music room. And this is the first time I'd ever seen a drum set. And so I was trying to sit there and play my half-size violin rental from Music and Arts. And I was so distracted that I like literally dropped the violin and like knocked the bridge out of the place. And my teacher, Karen, was like, okay, just go over there and play the drums. And so, I think I was like 8, and my mom and dad realized, they were like, he really likes this. So they got me like drum lessons, but they said, here, we'll rent a snare drum for you for like a year or 2. And if you practice that, then we'll get you a drum set. So I got a drum set when I was like 10 years old.
That's smart of them.
Yeah.
Get you started out before you have to hear the shell. Like,
yeah. Well, it was like an actual snare drum.
Oh.
Now
So
that's bold. Didn't even get you a pad first.
Oh.
Yeah, well, I studied.
Okay.
I mean, there was a mute on it sometimes, but I was studying like Rubank's method, so it was like.
So you were just there, like,
Yeah.
just banging away.
Yeah,
loud.
it was so much fun. And then I got the drum set for Christmas, my 10th birthday, I think, and I played ba-doom doom gong ba-doom doom gong for like apparently 6 months straight. Like, my mom was like, he just plays the one beat. I don't know what's going on. But then I learned about eighth notes and stuff, and I started studying. My first drum teacher was named Bill Duvall, and he was like a jazz trombone player, and so he was always talking to me in trombone terms about the drum set, which was really interesting. And
what is that? How does that sound?
So there's this term like double tonguing or triple tonguing, which is when you're playing like a wind instrument, you stop the air with your tongue.
Wow.
Like you blow an air column and stop the air with your tongue. You don't close your mouth. And so like he would, to say like a drum roll, like a 5-stroke roll, he would be like ta-ta-ka-ta-ta-ka-ta, which is like
conical.
Yeah,
like
like
the Indian.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, like that. Because it's a similar thing, and what you're doing with your tongue is literally like moving it.
I never thought about that.
Digga dump, digga dump. Like that's double tonguing, or ta-ta-ka-ta-ta-ka-ta. That's triple tonguing. And so like I learned about that without even thinking about it. Like I was like learning about that, but we were learning like Count Basie, Duke Ellington, like that kind of stuff. And he's actually probably the first person who, because he was a piano player and trombone player, and I think he like played drums somewhat. But he like, the first song I ever arranged, like he gave me like a big thing of like score sheet music, and he was like, why don't you arrange this like Solitude by Duke Ellington? He was like, just arrange it for our like band, like our jazz band that we play through the studio. It was like one of the first things I did. It was really fun. So I played drums then, and I feel like I actually played like a lot of rock and hip hop and stuff and like metal, honestly, but with the jazz drummer's sensibility. So it was like very melodic oftentimes.
I've always wondered about those intersections because they seem so different to me watching Joey Jordison versus watching Buddy Rich, if one could do the other.
Buddy Rich could do Joey Jordison. I don't know if Joey Jordison could do Buddy Rich, but
okay.
I don't know if anybody could do Buddy Rich. You know what I mean?
I've been on a real Buddy Rich phase.
Yeah, dude, Buddy Rich is Gene Krupa. It's also
Yes,
up there.
yeah, I've seen.
Chick Webb is one of my favorite jazz drummers. He played for Count Basie. Yeah, there's just so many good ones. But I did play like a lot of jazz gigs on drums, and I learned. I basically would just make sure I could hear the vocalist, and I would like you learn how to like phrase your snare drum with the vocalist, and that's really important, I think. But yeah, these days, in 2018 I started playing, like, I had kind of I was illustrating a music video and pinched a nerve in my lower back.
Oh wow!
And like my right foot didn't really work. Like the motion I couldn't do was like pulling it up, which is very important for playing drums. So I kind of stopped playing drums, and then over COVID, I was like really reminded that I play the drum set. And on this new record, I guess I haven't really talked about it, but there's this record called The Good Stuff that's coming out. It's like 9 songs. I actually played drums on half of it. And I got my good friend Ryan Wood to play drums on the other half of it.
Also of Kendall Street Company,
Yeah.
I believe. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And our first single, E9, which is coming out on July 2nd, actually has both of us playing drum set.
Pre-save now.
Yeah, pre-save now. It's out
Pre-save.
there. I'm so hyped. Like it's
It's a good
just-
song.
I couldn't figure out what to do as a single, and then all my friends were like, "What's your favorite song?" And it's not my favorite song, but every time it comes on, I'm like, "Yeah, I like this."
Awesome.
Yeah. So I don't remember your original question.
I'm
but
just curious about
yeah.
drumming.
Oh yeah,
myself, honestly.
drumming, like the intersection of drumming and producing. Is that was the question, or
Well,
piano?
whatever it was, you answered
Yeah.
it sufficiently.
Also,
So,
piano is like literally like a drum, like it's hammers.
right.
I view a guitar as a drum you can tune really fast because I play a lot of rhythm guitar. Oftentimes I function as that. Like I love to play lead, but it's much more difficult for me. Like I have to think in a different manner, and it's very relaxing to play rhythm guitar and like hold down a pocket. And you know, maybe it's just like the function of what I was serving for a long time, because I got Elie to play melodies and I would play rhythm to hold up a song, and between the two of us, and then I would do vocals, you know, between the two of us we were holding up a lot of a song.
It's all gold as far as I'm concerned.
Good.
So, all right. We've covered jazz drumming and just somewhat of like your early piano instrumental
Yeah.
work. And you also mentioned a lot of rock and hip hop and metal influence as well. I'm always interested to know if you could provide some kind of timeline for any like really big phases as far as your musical taste.
Word.
and
Yeah.
how it changed over time.
Yeah, I mean, the first CD I think I ever bought, because I knew my mom would buy it at the age of 5, was like Piano and Ocean Sounds at some like department store, because I wanted to buy a CD because I knew people had CDs. I knew that was a thing people did. But I was like, my mom's a piano player, and I was like, I don't know what she's going to let me buy. So I found this one and I was like,
Wow.
it's got Piano and Ocean Sounds on it.
Heck yeah,
I don't-
relaxing is
honestly don't really like listen to that very much, but a song I just produced starts with Piano and Ocean Sounds. It's pretty
Wow.
funny.
Do you remember any of it?
I
Still,
think
like,
yeah, I don't, maybe it was like maybe like some hymns and stuff. I don't even know. I don't know. It was like there was a grocery store, or like, what was it, Food Lion next to where Dick's used to be, but there was like a weird store there. They sold weird stuff, but I found that there. That's what I bought. So that was probably the first thing I bought. And then listen to like classical guitar. Like we had these like classical guitar greats, and I would just like listen to the radio when I was a little kid. I would like put on like, I think like Light Rock Z95 with your host John Tesh, and I would sit there on the swings and just listen to it. I didn't know any of the words of the song, so I would just make up my own words, like just sing through them. And at some point, I've been told I had a 1.5 to 2 year phase where I like aggressively liked the Eagles.
whoa.
Like, and this was like 10 maybe. I was like super into the Eagles. And then yeah, there was like a lot of in elementary school. I don't really remember what I was listening to. My sister's music was kind of like more poppy and probably country. My brother's music was like, he's like a lead guitar player and like a great, he was like studying Malagueña and that kind of stuff. Wow. So like I was like listening to that. In high school, like in middle school, I started branching out and finding my own sounds. I remember getting really into, what's the band that the drummer gets wicked.
Don't know that one.
Dude, I'll think of it here in a second. But like kind of like 80s and 90s hip hop.
Okay.
And like everybody when I was in high school wanted to play like some sort of rock or like emo or that kind of stuff. So I learned how to play a lot of that kind of music
Nice.
because of that. And I was pretty into pop punk at one point.
Who would that include? Just
like Blink-182, Sum 41,
Wow,
Plus 44, and I had a big punk
of
phase.
numbers.
Well, I was just thinking that.
Yeah, it was the number bands.
End with the numbers.
Like Green Day, like. But I also, because of that, I like found the history of it. I was like, what is the history of that? And I was like, okay, Rancid, the Ramones, the Specials, like the Clash.
Yeah,
like, so
punk stuff.
Yeah, through that I like started branching out. Like NoFX, was it? Oh, Public Enemy was the band I was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah, and they did a mashup with Anthrax,
Did
and it
they?
was like one of the craziest videos I had ever seen. It's like 29 people on stage or something, and there's just like people walking around this huge stage, just like people in crazy hats. I remember thinking, I was like, that's cool, I want to do that. Yeah, so I did all sorts of stuff then, and then in college, and obviously I was listening to like jazz too, just to like learn it. In college I started really like diving into like, there must have been some time where I was listening to Motown when I was younger, because I was learning like Superstition and like that kind of stuff. I don't really know, but I definitely got into funk really hard in college and like produced a lot of funk out in Minneapolis, because Prince is from there, and like everybody wanted to play funk. And I was like in a post-rock band, so I did a lot of that. I don't know, I'm just rambling at this point.
No, it's
And then I got into bluegrass. Not pretty late, like when I was.
There we go.
Yeah,
There it is.
when I moved to North Carolina, mostly because I was like listening to people. I was like, I'm just very aware of like where I'm at and what people listen to. So like when I was there, I like learned how to tackle the acoustic guitar, the Appalachian style acoustic guitar, and I do a lot of finger style stuff.
Right.
But now I feel like I just make whatever I hear. Is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. It's
The
once the phase, it's kind of like you only recognize a phase after it's done.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
with me, it's like, oh man, I've spent the last 7 months listening to the Beach Boys really hardcore or something.
Yeah.
Just
Hell yeah.
but I didn't realize it at the time.
there was a Beatles phase. There was a
It's always a Beatles.
yeah.
phase,
There was a Clash phase. Like I love the Clash.
Well,
There
you
was an
just like
Elvis Costello phase.
Hmm.
You probably know more what I've listened to.
yeah, but
You're
also
next,
I think
probably.
like just as you go through your musical path and things sort of build and lead, it's kind of like it's like you, for me at least, a lot of the process is like, oh, I like find a song that I like I hear somewhere, and then I listen to the song for a little bit, and then I'm like, man, I like this song, I want to hear more songs that sound like it. Then I go and I discover the artist, and I discover the genre they're a part of, and then I go and I learn where that genre came from. But I think
Yeah,
the
for
coolest
sure.
part is the way that all of it kind of ends up working its way ever so subtly into the things that you make,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
it all
definitely.
kind of starts coming out. And it's definitely fun for me to look back at songs I've written. And I think the best way for me to know what I was listening to is to look at the songs I wrote at the time and be like, oh, I wrote that song. That means I was probably listening to this stuff. And I can really see it, like see that like synthesis and how it gets like transformed.
Did you know that the Avett brothers can rap?
No, like freestyle rap or
Not
like
freestyle, but like they have songs that have like these rapped vocals in them. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
I just found out about this. I was thinking about I had like a pretty heavy folk phase.
Okay.
When I moved
Yeah.
to Charlottesville.
A lot of folk.
Well, I wouldn't have guessed that they would have that.
Yeah, no, like there's like these like rock rap songs I'm listening.
I think about like
Cake like.
if I like how many different types of music I make, like and like have like, you know, made like trap beats and also like soft folk. And I think that one thing I always reflect on is like I sort of assume that the artists who I listen to aren't like only do what they do, but of course, like I'm sure that they, you know, like I'm saying like I'm not special. Like everybody makes such a wide range of things, and or at least many people do. And the idea that like I'd love to hear what, you know, all these artists who are like known for, you know, like they're just like this one thing, like all the like other things that they've made in the past in their path that like they didn't put out, but that are like of all these different genres. Because I know there's things that if I heard like, oh, like so and so did this and that, I'd be like, oh shit. But like I make things that are that varied all the time, and I think it's fun.
It's a good example of that actually.
Yeah, I mean, so many artists are.
What's on his playlist that would surprise us?
I don't know.
I feel like he does a lot of
I
rap.
don't know the names.
Okay.
He does a lot of crazy stuff.
Yeah, I think like
he sings more than you realize. I feel like
yeah.
people don't really think of him as a vocalist, and he's more musical. I feel like
Okay.
than people realize.
Yeah, I can see
It happens a lot with that genre. I find.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So on that note, do you feel like there's anything that you really like have a deep appreciation for that people might be surprised to hear? Any guilty pleasure songs, perhaps?
I will say that I really can occasionally, like, especially recently. Actually, you know what? It's not. This has been like a thing. Like recently, I've gotten just into like pop rock. Just like I don't know where it came from, but like I'd never listened. The Strokes, you might appreciate.
That's not pop rock.
I mean, no, but that, I just mean like
I guess some of it maybe.
Yeah.
some of it is sort of, but like just like all these genres, like, but also, and then also just like straight pop. Like I hadn't listened to a ton, but like I've been listening to the Olivia Rodrigo album.
I've heard it.
Yeah,
like,
I've heard of it. Everyone's talking about it. Well, everyone's talking about it, and I was like, I'll check this out. And I was like, that's really good. Like Taylor Swift, really digging. Ariana Grande is digging it.
Dude. Yeah.
All this music
like
that
pop music. Honestly, that's
all this
the
pop
guilty
music
pleasure as like a songwriter.
But I don't think that
man.
I almost don't even think of it like guilty, because I'm like, this is just straight up good music.
I was about to say I don't really feel guilty.
But then also, yeah.
I mean, I feel a little bit like eating really processed food. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, but I love that shit.
Yeah.
You know? I eat processed food all the time, but I'll you know.
But it's also like
home,
I think
home cooked meals as well. You know.
Yeah.
Like the thing with processed food is that it's sort of like it's not good for you, right? Like it's got
You
chemicals.
think so? You think if you listen to too much pop, it would?
No, but that's what I'm saying is that I don't think that
I think
applies to
there's a
pop. Like
distinction there.
I
There
think that
might be like psychologically it might not be as good for you. It might like have a similar effect as Instagram or TikTok on people's brains. You know, like this
what do
really
you feel like the negative?
I don't think there's a very big negative, but I think you just have to be aware of the resources that are being poured into pop songs. If you are a person who might not have that kind of resources, and not compare yourself in the same light. You can compare your songwriting maybe, but if you're straight comparing sonic quality, oftentimes, which is a great thing and a good way to like grow and learn, but you should also be aware of how much money is being spent on something.
Yeah,
sure. That's why I always get a lot out of like undeniably poppy pop songs that are super simplistic in their in their at least their instrumentation or like I've been listening to Happy by Pharrell Williams.
Yeah,
a lot
amazing
it's
song.
It's the most incredible thing because
Mixed by Leslie Braithwaite.
Okay, I don't know who that is, but
great.
But I mean, but the beginning is just like drums and the like clav or whatever.
Yeah,
not clav. What is that sound? Not whirly. Some kind of keyboard. I don't even know. But it's barely. It's not a huge sound at all. But just everything fits together so perfectly, and the melody is so great, and the chords are so good that
That's
just,
that's
like I could
Quincy
listen to
Jones
that over and
influence.
over and over again.
I would say almost like that kind of stands as like the other side of like pop can be really good to listen to
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
for you. It's like a lot, like at least
Yeah,
as a
for sure.
songwriter, because when I listen to a lot of pop music, I write things that are a lot less, like a lot more like simple. I'm
the
like,
point. Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need to add, like I could put this in this other like counter melody, but not going to.
There's time and place. Yeah.
There's a time and place, exactly. I also love like, I mean, it's also fun to listen to just like shit that's like just nuts, like
Zane Carney's new record is nuts.
you know, like
So
got
it's an amazing guitar player. Thundercat called him the future of the guitar. So
Word.
you listen to it.
like believe Thundercats.
Anyway, I cut you off. I got really excited about
Um,
jazz music.
Yeah, I guess I would say like you got like "Happy" by Pharrell Williams is on one end of the spectrum, right? And then on the other side is maybe like "You Belong with Me" by Taylor Swift. There's probably you know 10 instruments on there, and they're all like super produced to get the biggest sound
I feel like there's
possible. But
10 instruments but 5 elements. Like I find in many songs.
I love that
there's-
song as well, by the way.
Yeah.
That's like I've never heard. I don't think I've ever heard a pop song that's that like perfectly executed. As far as like, it's got the themes. It's got like it's got everything you could possibly. I think you could play that in like 1978.
Yeah.
And it would have been. It's just
Yeah.
like universal. Like what more pop song appeal can you have than "You Belong with Me"?
Mhm.
She wears short skirts. I mean, it's just brilliant through and through,
True.
right?
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
so cool. I think that like it's easy for musicians to get basically like stuck up about music and like have this sense of like good and bad. But like if the point of music is and this is not something that I know that I believe or don't believe, like it's sort of an idea that I
You're about to say.
think about.
It's about
But
being
like
out there, and
if the
never
point
going
of
away.
music is ultimately to just have an emotional resonance with people and to have maybe affect people's lives, like if you're making music that, and like that might not be the point for everyone. Some people's point of music is honestly to play very fast. Like some people play music so that like it's weird, but like they play it so that they can play it fast, like that's their sort of goal in it.
Is this
But
a weird shade on bebop? Is that what's going on right here?
well,
gotta
if
hate
you
it.
got something that's like making people go crazy and that's really touching them, I mean, the counter argument is that, well, basically, then that is good music. Although I'm saying the counter argument to my own argument is, of course, that incidentally, this music has so much money behind it, making people listen to it, and all this stuff. But I think that like there's sort of no, I don't know. I think that a lot of the time musicians are like, oh, like whatever, like the whole idea is like pop is like sort of, there's this sense it's like sort of guilty. It's like, yeah, it's not,
Well,
doesn't
yeah, that's what I was
fully
saying.
command respect, but like, hell yeah, like this is
I own it.
I would
making
say
people-
where I would kind of draw a distinction is with something like, let's say "Happy."
yeah.
I mean, I feel like if I were to hear that performed with the exact same simple instrumentation, like as it is, if I were to hear that in like a coffee shop or something where there's like 2 people listening, I would still think like, why is this song not everywhere? Like this has all the elements of a song that would be
Yeah.
just viral.
Well, that's
And there's some things that are just like undeniable. The Taylor Swift, like "You Belong with Me," I feel like it's the same kind of effect it has. Where it's just like there's this undeniability where if you were to hear a random person singing that, you'd just be like, that is so fucking clever.
Yeah.
All of that, like that's
Yeah. Well,
I
this
don't
is
know.
this is kind of like we were having a conversation. I've had this conversation twice recently. Like once at the top of a waterfall with a stranger, and then once at a party with some people I didn't know. But we were talking about like, the music that when you're driving around with your parents or your dad or your mom right now, it comes on the radio and they look at you with a bit of pride and they're like, yeah, this is what I listened to when I was your age. This is what I listened to, what makes a song that? Like, what music that's happening right now is going to become that in the future? You know what I mean? For when when you're driving around with your kid and you look over and you're like, yo, this is what's going to last. Does that make sense?
Of course, yeah.
It's like a really interesting thing to think about, and I think that's basically what you're touching on is like, what is this like it factor?
Yeah,
like,
there's I don't know. There's certain things that are just going to transcend the generation.
I think it's genuine, like being genuine through your whatever your music.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it's all. I feel like it's very subjective at the end of the day because, there's plenty that, like I like from my parents' era that they might even hate. You know? And
Yeah,
it wouldn't have necessarily been pop, but it's not only was it not popular then, it's like, but it's not.
Yeah, but that's
sure as
what,
hell isn't popular now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
but that's what you like from then. I'm saying like what was popular then that is going to last.
that is going to last for everyone.
Yeah, or in the popular lexicon. You know what I mean?
Okay,
And I think
yeah,
it's these themes that you're talking about, like you said with the Taylor Swift song. Like you could play it in 1978 because it is like genuine. Like that's just
You're saying what?
She knows how to make it come across as like a genuine, because it's such a deep seated narrative in people.
Yeah, the deep seated narrative
Yeah.
is what's the genuine
Yeah, of
part for
course.
me.
Yeah.
But then you've got,
I don't know if-
Great Balls of Fire by Jerry Lee Lewis. Not necessarily like a deep seated
Yeah.
primal narrative that everyone.
But the
can
primal
relate to.
narrative-
but the primal narrative in that is
the feeling.
1, 4, 5 just
Yeah.
boogie.
Yeah, the primal narrative in that
Is that.
Yeah.
I think like almost, yeah. It's like the genuineness isn't necessarily on the side of the like. Every time I talk to like pop songwriters, one of the things I hear a lot is like a big part of it is you write things that aren't your story.
Yeah.
You write things that are the listener's story.
Right.
And
yeah,
so like
that's what I'm talking
that's I guess where it's lining up. So it's not making necessarily just
No, I wasn't saying it has to be genuine for me.
Okay.
it just has to be
So
genuine
just
for the
like
listener. So that just is something that
narrative
resonates.
in space, in the ether.
Yeah, it has to be. You have to be talking about something
Okay.
real, basically,
Yeah.
in some manner.
And I think that another big thing.
Oh yeah, Bruce Springsteen, he says.
Yeah, Bruce Springsteen was never I don't know, Harley rider, or was never a cowboy, but he sang about a lot of different things, and he
Right.
just has that. What's it called? He has the ethos, the appeal to credibility, where he sings it, people believe it.
Yeah.
Not to mention, obviously, that kind of complements the songs being good to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you have to have some sort of
I probably should
like
like chewing all this ice up in here.
yeah. Yeah, you have to have some sort of talent and like be a good musician. But the songs that people resonate with, for me, that last the longest, are the ones where I left some vagueness in it for like kind of like a Mad Lib, so that people can fill in their nouns and their verbs to the song, and then it becomes way more powerful.
I also think that like something that is sometimes tricky to accept is like there's a lot of, especially now, arbitrariness to what, like there's so much amazing music that's constantly being produced.
Yeah.
It's always coming out every day. 60,000 songs go up on Spotify every day. It's like there's a ton of great music. Like there's not enough people in the world, and they don't live long enough to hear it all. There's not enough hours to hear it all. Like it's just like that's just the nature of it. And I think that like that is sort of a strange thing when you're talking about like from a creative perspective, like what makes something timeless. It's like, there's a lot of things that and there's a lot of things that like do, coming back to the pop conversation, that do make it to the very top, that like at least on a personal level, like I don't find that story existing in my universe already, that I can't latch onto it. And like obviously it's not that music isn't for me, and that's doesn't mean it's bad music, but that's just something that like I mean I know like I think about when I'm making music is like, to the extent that there's like the separation of making a song that has that thing where I can say like this song is timeless for me, because there's no way to know whether it'll be timeless for
Yes.
a million Spotify listeners.
Yeah. It
You
could
know?
end up being your own little gem.
There's no point.
There's no point. There's like there's
And that
this sort of
hinders
like
your process.
it does,
Yeah.
but there's this sort of sense of like does that X factor exist inherently? Like it's like if a tree falls in the woods, Like, and it's not even just about
Does fall.
listenership, but like, does it make a sound? Like, just like in terms of like when you're making music, like injecting it with that, as much of that, like feeling that exists in your universe
Yeah.
as you possibly can.
That's what
Get it out
it's gotta
there.
Be genuine.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've always kind of, this is like a loose thought, but a song has a feeling in it, right? It's like to make it a song, it has to have some sort of feeling. Like it has to have something, right? A good song has like 3 or 4 different feelings of something, right? And like you're kind of contrasting it, and it's basically like giving it 3D or like dimension, right? We're looking at it from different aspects. And a great like standout phenomenal song that people will continue to listen to has every conceivable feeling that the songwriter could think of for that song.
Oh, okay.
And the like
I thought you were gonna say that. I thought you were gonna say a good song has like 3 or 4, and a great song has 1.
No. I think like, well, it is one, but it's like it has this feeling, but they put you in a position. It's like almost like AR, like augmented reality or like virtual reality. Like they've put you in a situation where you enter it, and so you are now experiencing every feeling that you could feel in this situation.
Do you feel like you can think of an example, just like maybe for the sake?
It's different for everybody. That's
Okay.
the problem. Like for you, it'll be different than it'll be for me. I'm trying to think. I'll think of an example here, probably while we're going. I mean, that Ryland Under the Apple Tree song is actually like has a pretty good. It's a Julian Lange song
Oh,
that
really?
like I'm With Her arranged.
Okay.
And wrote lyrics to. That one has a lot of feelings in it for a lot of people. I'll have to think of some more for a good example. I should have.
I feel like
Yeah.
I could see
Yeah.
where you're getting at.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Sure.
It's like it's this like the Mad Lib thing that I'm talking about. Like putting your song has to put someone in that position.
Okay.
For them, like it's so when you think about cinema, there's this thing called like the gaze or the view, and it's like what is being observed, and like through the whole creation of the cinema, it doesn't have to be like what the camera is focused on.
Okay.
It's like what is being observed, and like if you think about a song like that, like what is being observed.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
you can write the same song observing myself, like how I feel about it, and that's one song. Some songs need that, but like you were saying, like a corporate or pop songwriter will write a song from someone else's perspective for someone else to sing and for someone else to feel. Just like that is the craft of songwriting, like controlling the gaze inside the song. And like those are like when you hear those lyrics that like flip, like it flips the whole meaning of the song when you hear one lyric. Like there's probably one in Still Fighting It by Ben Folds. Like who's the guy from Wolfpack, Theo Capson? His new record, Heartbreak Hits. Good to Be Alone is a song that has, for me, like a lot of feelings that I can feel, and like I can put myself in that situation.
This is deep in
Yeah.
the science of it, right? I'm
Yeah.
personally trying to relate.